without breaching confidentiality, can you give us an update on these staffing matters and tell us any information that actually can be in the public domain? Thank you.
I wonder, just before you answer, Mr. Mayor, perhaps I could be helpful by reference to the standing orders, and I have been asked a direct question. So I believe that Standing Order 1, which covers the rules of debate at meetings at point P, point O, my apologies, will allow a councillor a right of reply if they're asked a specific question. I would consider this to be a right of reply.
1-3.
10.1. Oh, sorry, it is point 1P. My apologies. I'll read it for you.
During the debate on a motion, may interrupt only on a point of order or personal explanation. But this is the public speaking session.
I accept your point, Mr. Mayor. I stand corrected.
Right. I think the decisions of the previous meetings have been published, and you're aware that there's been a consultation with employees about the future of the council, and we'll be considering the outcome of that consultation. As I've said, I believe that consultations with employees and the matters raised are a private and confidential business of the council. Can we now move on to Elizabeth Hutchinson?
Nevertheless, I would quite like the opportunity to answer the question. Are you telling me that I should not do so? It was asked directly of me.
Under the standing orders, this is the point of the meeting where members of the public speak. As it seems to be the case that the member of the public specifically wants to hear from you, I'm happy to let you speak, but I just point out that standing orders, this is really a session for the public to raise points of the question to council, rather than a conversation between a member of the public and a councillor. So if you'd like to be brief, Councillor Wallace.
I will, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for indulging me. I am a councillor, so I may not be the mayor, but I do think I've got some authority to speak, at least for the council. So I think setting out the points, and I will be very careful because clearly I don't want to breach anything in terms of confidentiality, but I think it's well known that a restructuring process is underway within the council, and that may lead to changes in the staffing provision of Bingham Town Council. And I'll welcome if you want to tell me that I'm getting close to the edge, Mr. Mayor. I think my principal concern with this, is the scrutiny and the openness to which any public body should be held. I mean, I am a civil servant and I'm open to scrutiny, and we should operate on the basis that what we do is in the public domain unless there's a very good and specific reason for that not to be the case. And I think there's also an obligation on us to make sure that we are spending the money that's entrusted to us by the electorate in Bingham carefully, with due consideration, and to exercise the good principles of due diligence. I think my concern with the way council has been dealing with this matter so far is that lack of rigour and that lack of due diligence. And I might just compare it for a moment to the item about the rugby club on the agenda this evening, which is equally important, but includes within it papers that relate to a risk assessment for the council in taking the loan that it's asking for. It includes in it some financial projections, and it includes in it some plans. Now, to be honest, I haven't seen any of that stuff in terms of these proposals. Now, I wrote to Councillor Purdo-Haran at the weekend, and I suggested that there were a number of documents that I would expect to see as a councillor exercising my fiduciary duties on behalf of the people of Bingham. And that would include a properly prepared independent analysis of the council's functions and the improvements that the plan is designed to provide. We previously engaged Ellis Whittam to do that. The council rejected that advice, but we haven't done any subsequent work, any subsequent independent planning to say that this is the route that council should go down, and that there are some bettering. I suggested that a proper cost analysis should be provided to include the current cost of staff provision and the services we receive in return. The future costs arising out of the restructuring and how these services would be improved by reference to those costs, and the costs incurred to date on the restructuring, including the services of Ellis Whittamore HR advisors. I've not had any of that. A proper explanation as to why staff are being considered for redundancy, and I don't think that's a secret anymore. As far as I can see from the report, we're increasing the hours, we're increasing the work that's required, we're potentially increasing staffing numbers. And under those circumstances, I find it really difficult to understand why we should be considering letting any of our current staff go. We need a risk assessment, as we've got with the rugby club. Current council commitments are extensive. We have the ongoing impact of C19, for which we set up the Resilience Committee. We have legal costs relating to the structuring, and let's face it, we may be facing challenging on how we go forward with that. And I think that's probably as much as I can go as far as I can go without breaching a confidence. But I think it's important that the people of Bingham understand that their councillors are exercising due care when they reach decisions. And without those documents, which frankly are still not before me this evening, I would be extremely concerned at arriving at an incorrect decision in terms of the future provision of services for the people of Bingham. I hope that's clear enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, can I
Okay, Kath Valence, you have a question now.
Yeah, sorry, that first one was just because of what's just happened. So my actual question is going to be, you mentioned at a previous meeting that there's been a 35% increase in staff costs. Now, obviously, looking through the accounts and past documents, I understand you've increased ground staff, so there's a bit in extra incurred costs there. But I understand a lot of the other increased costs are overtime payments for both the clerk and the deputy clerk. Obviously, the staffing review also supports an increase in staff. So I'm a little bit amiss to understand why you should be looking at restructuring and actually redundancies when the report actually says you should be increasing staff. So I can't quite understand how you expect to do that without increasing costs. Can you explain that to us at least, as the information isn't available? How does that tie in with this restructuring?
So you're asking how are we increasing staff? What the actual staffing? I mean, you're talking about the staffing review, which I understood was a private and confidential document. Again, because it does talk about within it a series of redundancies. So that staffing review doesn't actually spell out the costs of the options considered or how many hours each role should be working. So the council has had to consider that, and then looking at the financial pressures it has, come up with a way forward, which it thinks will be the best way forward to have the right number of roles in place to deliver the programme of activity that we have planned for the next 3 years. So I think that's how we expect to move forward.
But it's interesting you say that you read the report that it recommends redundancies. I don't read it like that at all. I read it that it actually says that the clerk and the deputy clerk are actually overwhelmed with work and could do with some assistance from administrators, and you should be looking at actually increasing staffing levels. So I'm still at a miss to see how any possible solution is to actually look at making these two posts redundant. It just doesn't add up to me. That's why there's so much confusion from members of the public. We're reading one thing, but we're seeing exactly the opposite. So you understand why people are confused.
I'm not sure what portions of the staffing review members of the public have. If you look at the entirety of the document, it does refer to such substantial changes to the job roles across the organisation that a number of people would be made redundant, and for that reason I would not discuss it in public myself personally. The next person who wishes to speak is Elizabeth Hutchinson.
Yes, thank you. Actually just wanted to thank councillors, all of the councillors, for their support for the community events been happening on the Market Square for the month of August. But in particular, I wanted to point out to ladies from your office who went above and beyond on the first event, out with their working hours. They came down to the Market Square because there was a problem with the electrics. So your deputy clerk and Nicola, one of your administrators, ended up spending the full evening with Bingham Community Events and the volunteers, sorting out some of the problems. And I just think they need acknowledged for how they went above and beyond to help us to put on what has been a well-supported event.
Thank you for your feedback. I'll see that the employees named will receive the comments made.
Thank you.
Rebecca Higgs, please. Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I've just unmuted.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, Rebecca.
Sorry,
Rebecca, my apologies. I've had a message from Councillor Sims saying she can't get into the meeting. Is she in? My apologies.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry.
Can Rebecca Higgs, the member of public, speak now, please? Councillors who wish to are indicating, can they wait until the end? Can we hear from the public now, please?
I've also had a number of panic-stricken messages from Councillor Leach that she can't get into the meeting, and I wondered whether that was sorted yet.
Councillor Leach is in the meeting. She's indicating she wishes to speak by raising her hand. However, councillors can please wait to the end or to the relevant agenda item when you have the opportunity to speak. This session is for members of the public. So can we now hear from Rebecca Higgs, please?
It's a question to each individual councillor, if I'm allowed to do that. Can I ask them, as I've been as a member of the public to the last, I think, 3 or 4 meetings, can you tell me why you vote the way you do? Is it that you are told to vote because of political allegiance, or is it what you really believe?
It's not the case that we go around asking each individual councillor, but councillors come to the meeting and it's up to them to consider the information they have available before making a vote. Do you have any? Is that the end of your contribution, Rebecca Higgs? All right, we now move on to Jane Costello then, please. Jane Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like
Mr.
to...
Mayor, I think...
First of all, Mr. Mayor, for the member of the public that spoke last time, unless things have changed dramatically, the Conservative group meet sometime before the full council meeting and decide who votes for what, and it's all stitched up beforehand. But my question is to the Mayor, I would like an apology from you, Mr. Mayor, for your rudeness to all the former councillors that spoke at the last meeting, referring to them as derisively as ex-councillor whatever. I would also like an apology for your lie when you told me that I voted against the lake. I did not.
My recollection of what the discussion was that I said that you had in the past criticised the lake and joined in with comments regarding it being a muddy puddle. I don't recall ever saying that.
Of voting against the lake, I did not vote against the lake. I objected to the muddy puddles and the wetland, but I wanted the lake that the people of Bingham had been promised. Can I have an apology from you?
I'm sorry, but I don't recall saying that you voted for against the lake. I recall saying that you have criticised it as a muddy puddle when you and that you wanted a different lake. The votes regarding the meetings from 2018 are publicly available for people to examine. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that comment because I was still answering your previous question. With regards to the fact that you are in fact ex-councillors, that's actually a statement of fact. The next person who wishes to speak is Anne Armitage. Hello? Anne Armitage. Anne Armitage is currently muted.
Hello.
You wish to
Hello.
speak? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. the sound tonight on the Microsoft Office from your meeting is quite quiet, so it's really difficult to hear councillors. My question is around, on the agenda, there's quite a lot of issues around how we're spending money in the future, particularly on recreational facilities. My concern is that we've got a eyesore sitting outside Bingham. The builders have been let off with not finishing that properly, and it is, you know, it was promised to the residents of Bingham that we would have a substantial lake. What we've got is an overgrown mess. How is the council proposing that they're going to sort that out in future before they start and allocate funds to different other projects?
I believe you're referring to the lake then. Yeah?
Correct.
Right. So the lake is part of the development being made by Barratt David Wilson. They have to make up the lake to the specified landscaping, which includes the paths, the footbridge, footbridges across the dike, and various planting arrangements as part of the planning application for the development to the north of Bingham. The latest information we have was published on the website today. It's that the developers have indicated that they will have contractors back on site on the 24th of August for 6 to 8 weeks to complete all the works, and then the landscaping will be done. And once it's been walked by the footway officers from Nottinghamshire County Council, then the facility will be open for the public from now and into the future. So we are chasing up developers. Sorry?
Excuse me, it is a downscaled project to the original project that was proposed. How are you going to provide what we as the public were expecting when you came into consultation around the developments?
The development being built is according to the planning application that has been granted. So the developer is obliged to build the planning application approved. So,
what about the original plans for it that were sold to the public before the development started? I'm not quite sure why we ended up with a downscaled project once people had not protested around the bigger build.
Well, the planning application was a planning application for the variation of the original proposals came forward. It was a number of different planning applications that came forward. There are planning applications dividing the site into the first 300, followed by the next 733-ish number of houses. As the original planning permission was an outline planning permission, and as the details, the reserved matters of that planning application were developed by the developer, they've improved and worked upon the housing arrangements, the arrangements of other pieces of land, the road arrangements, and they also modelled the landscaping with more detail, and were able to provide the lake that's proposed, for which they now have planning permission.
Right. Okay. So is it not true that you as the council, or at least one casting vote, determined the direction of that project and the downscaling of it?
Can I answer that, Mr. Mayor?
Well, the matters are in the public domain, and again, it's comments to the council. So it's 24th of July 2018. The town council.
I'm aware of that. But about the fact that the councillors of Bingham did not stand up for the residents of Bingham is a massive concern. I'm not sure what why the gain was in voting for a downscale of the project.
Mr. Mayor, can I be helpful?
No, you can't. I'm answering the question. The matters are in the public domain. The votes are all.
But you're there to answer to those matters. You know, they sit in the public domain. You're accountable for the council and the running of the council.
I am. And the planning authority
so then you're accountable for that decision.
Is Rushcliffe Borough Council. The Rushcliffe Borough Councillor for Bingham East did not object to the application.
But what did the councillors of Bingham do? It's you that are representing us.
Well, I'm sorry, but the borough councillors for Bingham also represent you, and they're the ones.
You do, but
because
you're the
planning
first
authority
kind of
is Rushcliffe
step
Borough
there.
Council.
That was the brick in the wall coming down, isn't it? That there was no, you know, that this project got downscaled or because of the councillors of Bingham not standing up for the residents.
I'm not aware that that's the case at all. It's the planning
So how
system
did the
and the way it
voting
works.
go? If you had to vote on this project, what's the point in your voting if that had no influence?
The town council is a consultee on planning decisions, but then the ward councillors at the borough council level had the opportunity to express their views. If the borough councillors disagree with the planning officers, then it will go to a planning committee at Rushcliffe Borough Council. The borough councillors did not disagree with the planning officers.
Council that downvoted that in the first instance?
In the first instance,
where is your representation of the residents of Bingham?
Well,
or do you do what your fellow councillors tell you to do, or do you represent the public of Bingham? Which is it? Because I'm a bit confused to what your role is then.
Bingham Town Council is a consultee when it comes to planning meetings. There is no political pre-meeting
Really?
and there is no political voting. A planning meeting has just occurred and I've answered the questions that have been raised. Okay, we now move on to the next speaker, which is Norman Mees. Mr. Mees?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can now, yes.
Good, yeah. I say that because I left my mic on last time by mistake and I apologise for that on the last meeting. I've got questions, but I just want to refer back to the lady who said about block voting, really, how you're voting. And I found it very interesting that when you were asked about the reasons for putting these staffing matters into private and confidential, your reasons that you gave were totally incorrect in that you could easily tell us, the public, what sort of things came out of the consultation and what type of thing you're looking at. No reference to individuals or anything else, but what is the form of this restructure that the staff want, the people that we in Bingham employ. Further to that, the lady asked, how do you vote? All your Conservatives voted to put it into confidential. So we now know, and it's now been proven, that your Conservative councillors do not vote in what they believe, they vote in how they are told. Therefore, no matter what happens with Bingham Town Council, whilst ever those councillors continue to vote like that, you as a council will do whatever you like, whenever you like, until the stage comes when an outside body, example, an employment tribunal, does otherwise. I wasn't going to say that, but I'm saying it now because you keep stonewalling questions. I'm now going to go to my questions. Getting information from Bingham Town Council is like extracting teeth. Gradually, information comes over. There is always a resistance, and I give, for example, the staffing report. I haven't seen it when I asked my previous questions. I now have seen it thanks to the freedom of information. When I saw that report, I was shocked because it didn't relate to anything that you were saying and the town council have been saying. And I'm going to refer in that report one or two things which makes me wonder what on earth's going on. It says in that report, which by the way you dismissed as things were moved on without telling us what on earth you meant by that, but that staffing report stands as far as I'm concerned. And it says staff have been bullied. It says poor conduct by councillors. It says in it, and by the way, I'm doing what you do regularly, which is cherry pick. And you can read this report and I'll go through it with you word for word if you want privately. But it says you should employ people for minute taking to assist the town clerk. There should be an office admin to alleviate work for the town clerk, who is obviously overworked. It says that in terms of what you want to do, a town manager, it actually says not an obvious recommendation. It says that the town clerk's neutrality, now that's the person doing the job we employ her to do, her neutrality is mistaken for opposition. That you look as though you, and I've got to say, when I listen to what's going on and I refer back to the town clerk who's given you advice about the agenda, you took no notice of it. You've taken no notice of her again. And when I referred that to you, you referred me back to the monitoring, to the letter of the monitoring officer saying that she no longer wanted to take part. Not true. She has defined what her role is, and she has specifically said that the town clerk is the one who deals with complaints and members of members' misconduct. All the way along the line, you have been giving us false information, which we find to be wrong when we fight and manage to get reports. Now, I think it's time for the truth. What's going on? Is it that the town clerk is doing her job, and now, of course, the deputy town clerk, doing her job and doing it well, looking to make sure that the council stays in line, complies with the law, and for whatever's gone on, and I don't know what's gone on, there's animosity, and you ended up dismissing her, and when an outside body, an obvious outside body, looked at it on the appeal, when there was an appeal, because obviously there's been an appeal, because she's been reinstated. So you couldn't dismiss her, and it's been said on here, on these meetings, it's been said on Facebook, it's all over the place, that there's a hidden agenda. Now, will you please, the lot of you, Conservatives and you, stop playing politics. Come up with the truth. What is your game? What are you trying to do? Let's get on with what's happening in Bingham. Let's deal with everything that he's dealing with and let the clerk do her job. Now then, are you going to start being honest and tell us what you're trying to do and tell us if you've got a hidden agenda? If the town clerk is not capable of doing the job, the law caters for that, incapability procedures, all sorts of things there. Use them. Don't use hidden agendas backed up by this system of block voting. Start being town councillors and representing us, Bingham Town people. So the question is, are you going to stop this and stop making everybody look silly and making us all look silly and just start doing the job we elected you to do? Are you going to start doing it? That's the question.
Well, there's three aspects to that. In the first, you seem to have made some very serious allegations about bullying and false information.
It's in the report.
I'm not aware of any investigations into my conduct, and there have been no complaints upheld against me. And I've explained that point before. The second point was about the performance and management of an employee, and I made it very clear that when I'm not prepared to discuss the performance and management of employees in a public meeting. With regards to what is our agenda is very clearly spelt out in the document which is in the Buttercross, actually, the recent copy. We are improving the play parks, we are investing in sports facilities, we are working with the Friends of Linear Park to implement the 5-year biodiversity management plan for the Linear Park. We are looking to develop the old contaminated old allotments into a new car park for improved town centre and railway station parking. And we're maintaining and improving the town council's responsibilities, including the old courthouse improvements, open space security and access improvements, and renewing the town centre CCTV. We're very open about what our agenda is, and we believe that these are actions that are what Bingham people want us to do. So I have to point out that the people who are speaking are only talking about one aspect of the council, and there's a lot of other works that we do that a lot of other people think are very positive for Bingham, I would say. The next person to speak is Sue Hull.
No, I'm sorry. I've always kept myself quiet, but it's gone past that now. First of all, I'm not accusing you personally of bullying. It is in the report and it says staff have been bullied. So that obviously means not just you, other people as well. It also says poor conduct by councillors, not just you. Will you please stop gerrymandering and answer questions straight? I want answers, straight answers. Stop being a politician. Just look upon yourselves. And I'm talking now to all councillors, all of you. Just look at yourself as representing us. Yes, good things are going on, but there's other hidden agendas going on. Just tell us what they are and deal with them properly. Stop gerrymandering and stop stonewalling. It can go on so long, but eventually outside bodies will look at this and they will determine what's going on here. I talk with knowledge on these matters. I looked at this in the beginning and I spotted all the signs of things being not right. Unfortunately, by coming to these meetings, you have confirmed my concerns. I actually wrote to you and all the councillors expressing my concerns that we're going to end up in a tribunal if we're not careful of some sort, which we, the taxpayers, can have to pay for. Further, when you replied later to another question at the last meeting, you expressed that you would not do anything until you had a judicial review. I've dealt with judicial reviews. They cost thousands and thousands of pounds. You know that nobody will go to the judicial review because of that. However, if this carries on, we're going to end up with a judicial review. And who's going to pay for it? We, Bingham Town people, are going to pay for it. All because you will not accept the advice you're given. And when advice is given by professionals, and I will say again, it's that type of thing I have dealt with for many years. And I know that legal advice is only as good as the information that's provided to the lawyer or to the barrister. If false information or the full truth is not given to those people, you will get advice which is not any good. But that will be found out at court or in tribunals at a later stage, because you're doing what people do very commonly in industry and in big organizations. Major managers make off-the-cuff remarks, which when examined by external bodies are found to be surface comments. Once you go under the surface and find out the evidence, then the truth comes out and people are made to look silly. And it's an embarrassing situation, and Bingham Town Council is heading like an express train down that road. I don't want to see it. I think it's totally avoidable, and I would remind people that it's not just corporate responsibility. There are areas of employment law and discrimination law that is individual responsibility, not a corporate responsibility. And I want to avoid all of that. I think it's totally unnecessary. But employment law, and I can wave a book here in front of you as thick as my head on employment law, and I can see now I've got the staffing report, the monitoring officer, all the stuff that's been coming out, that you are ignoring good sound advice unless it's rammed down your throat. Now, well, please stop it. Just get on with the job and treat your staff properly. I've said enough. I swore I wasn't going to say it, but I think I owe it to the Bingham people that they do not let their town council lead them into a legal mire, which is completely avoidable. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your opinion. Next person to speak is Sue Hull.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you please confirm the costs that have been incurred from consultants that have been spent thus far in your efforts to remove the clerk and deputy clerk from office? How much of the public's money is being used to fuel the personal obsession to remove the clerk from office and install the previous clerk? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Zero. There is no money being spent on any obsession to remove the current clerk and install the previous clerk, because I'm not aware that that's happening. Okay, Jim Costello is the next person.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Over a period of several nights, the good people of Bingham have gathered in the square for a community event which was enjoyable and fun and entertaining. And hundreds of people did that. And when people said to me, well, where's our mayor? Surely he hasn't, nobody's seen him. And people said to me, he can't be bothered. And other people said to me, he's too scared to show his face in public. And I said, no, not our mayor. He's too honourable for that sort of activity. So now's the opportunity, Mr. Mayor, to explain to the people of Bingham why you didn't show up during any of the several nights when hundreds of Bingham residents gathered in the square. What have you got to say to that?
Bingham Town Council is funding those events, and I'm glad to hear that they're popular. I didn't realise people were clamouring to see me. I can't remember what I was doing on those particular evenings. If people want to see me, my contact details are available on the website. Members of the public are able to email me as they see fit, and happy to attend public events when it's socially distanced as appropriate. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, stop being silly. You're telling me that on one of the most important events that has happened in Bingham for months, with hundreds of people all gathered there, you can't remember what you were doing on any of those nights? Shame on you.
Okay, right, thank you. With regards to the VJ commemoration, it was particularly the case that I was invited, but I was then told the event was not going to proceed, and so I made other plans to meet members of my family. When the event proceeded, I asked the Deputy Mayor to attend in my place. So the council does have a Deputy Mayor, and I understand that he was present at the VJ commemoration event. So I do think we are, as a team, representing the council and the events in Bingham. Thank you. Right, that's all the members of the public have indicated they wish to speak. Councillors who wish to speak can do so in the agenda as written. We now move on to the rest of the papers.
Do you want a coffee?
No, thanks.
Okay. Members of the public who aren't now speaking can please mute your microphones. We now move on to item number 4, Win Hill Community Facilities Improvements. There are to receive a report on the business case for the improvements, to receive the results from the public consultation, to agree to continue working with the rugby club to secure and satisfy the financial, legal and operational arrangements between the two organisations in relation to the Win Hill Community Facility Improvements, to note the budget and reserves for the year ending 31st of March 2021, to agree the loan repayment amendments to the draft 3-year reserve summary budget to the year ending 31st of March 2023, to agree to seek the approval of the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government to apply for a Public Works Loan Board loan of £400,000 over the borrowing term of 30 years for the Win Hill Community Facility Improvements. The annual loan repayments will come to around £19,126.64. It is also intended to increase the council tax precept for the purpose of the loan repayments by 6.4%, which is the equivalent of an additional £5.30 a year based upon current figures, but will not apply until the 1st of April 2023. This has been subject to a precept increase consultation. That is the business on the agenda. Does anybody wish to speak to it? Councillors? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to present the results of the online survey that was available through the council website. This survey as well was advertised on the notice boards where people could, who didn't have internet access, were able to contact the town office in order to express their vote and any comments that way if they didn't have internet access, to try and include everybody in the community. Of the survey, there was 355 votes or responses on it, which equates to roughly around 4% of the population of Bingham. Of these, there was 340 from Bingham. There was 15 that were actually expressed from outside of Bingham, so it gives around about the 4%. There was 109 comments, and these comments will be used on the website as a reply to any questions and items raised with the comments, and also to show what the comments that the members of the public expressed. And the result from it was 227 in support of the council taking out the loan and 113 not in support. So it's roughly 2/3 to 1/3. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lewis and then Councillor Shelton.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I am slightly puzzled, although obviously one needs to support this. I'm looking at the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the full council, which took place on Tuesday the 24th of September in the Methodist Centre, which a large number of members of the public were present, and it says that the following motion was proposed by the Mayor, i.e. yourself, and seconded by Councillor Money, who is also present tonight, to agree to support up to £400,000 from the community chest for the town pavilion community facilities, and to commit to providing up to £1,200,000 for the Chapel Lane community facilities funded by Community Chest and the Public Works Loan Board. And a recorded vote was taken at which all 14 councillors voted. 13 of them, including yourself and me, voted for, and one Councillor Bird voted against. And I just puzzled to understand why that decision appears to have been turned on its head. And so far, the rugby club has received nothing, and the borough council has snaffled the whole lot, and now there's nothing left, and we're having to borrow money to pay something which we should have been paying out of our own money. So perhaps you can answer that.
Councillor Shelton is the next person you wish to speak.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to move A to F.
Okay, moving A to F. I'll second that. Councillor Leach has indicated you wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say that I was there at that meeting that John is on about, and it was agreed. And then, Monica, you agreed too. That's all I've got to say. Why can't we just do as we promised instead of giving in to Rushcliffe every time? Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other speakers who wish to speak to the items A to F?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Money.
Me too, please, Mr.
I have to say that although I agree with what the councillors Leach and Lewis have just said, I do believe that every step of this process, however disappointing it has been, we have been informed. We've been informed that they took the community chest funds for the other leisure centre. I was disappointed. We were informed that we'd have to apply for a loan, even though I was disappointed. And yes, we do have to support this, even though
it hasn't gone exactly the way I would have liked from beginning to end. This is where we are, and it is a community project that is supported by everybody, and that's why we need to go forward with it.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace has indicated you wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a matter in which I think we all, as a council, and I'm very pleased to support items 4A to F and will be voting accordingly. But I do think it's worth just reiterating the points made by Councillor Lewis and Councillor Money. I spoke at some length at that open meeting, that public meeting, about what we would like to see from the council on behalf of the people of Bingham, and I was surprised that we found ourselves in this position also.
Okay. Well, is Councillor Lewis, your hand is up from it's gone now.
All right.
Any other speakers to this these items? Councillor Williams.
I'd just like to come back on the point from the resolution from September's meeting that keeps getting referred to. I have stated in previous full council meetings when this has been raised, and also at the Recreation and Amenities Committee meeting that I chair, that the reason that we have these recommendations written out as they are is because in order to satisfy the application to the PWLB is that we need a resolution that categorically states how much we are going to take, the repayments, how it impacts on the preset. It's one of the things that they ask us to take a resolution on that. I think in September it was only spoken about during the meeting, but I don't think anything was put in a resolution as a recommendation, and I think that is why it's now come that once the work was carried out on what was to be done in order to take out this loan, that was one of the criteria that was found that we had to meet. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Councillor Leach, you got a point you wish to make?
No, Francis had his hand up before me, John. I'll wait.
Councillor Purdue-Horan then. I haven't seen Councillor Purdue-Horan put his hand up.
He did.
Oh. Okay. Councillor Purdue-Horan, do you wish to speak?
He's muted.
Sorry, I just wish to announce the arrival of Councillor Best to the meeting.
Well done, Jane.
Okay. Right, Councillor Leach, points as you've already spoken. You just want to make another point?
One point in answer to that. Back in that meeting in September, there were a lot of members of the public there, and when that was raised, they agreed with us that it should be the rugby club that got the money from the chest, not the borough council. So please remember that the public said that.
Okay. These votes are to ensure that we meet the requirements of the Public Works Loan Board loan request as specified by the Housing, Communities and Local Government Department. So, Clerk, do we need to go through them all one at a time, each section?
I think given it's a formal application, yes, we should.
So we're now going to go through each item of 4. So there's going to be 6 votes. We'll start with 4A, and we have to go through each member individually. 4A, to receive a report on the business case for improvements. We're all confirming that. We move to the vote, please.
Councillor Best, have you received the report and considered it?
That's Purdue-Horan, you're muted.
You're muted again, Francis.
Sorry, can you say that again, Jane?
Said all I heard was A and B.
I'm sorry, I'll speak more clearly. So for item number 4, we have to say whether we approve of each individual part of the of item 4. So we start with 4A. Do you approve that you have received a report on the business case for the improvements?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bird.
Yes.
Councillor Leach.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Money.
Yes.
Councillor Moskva.
Yes.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
Yes.
Councillor Shelton.
Yes.
Councillor Sims.
Yes.
Councillor Stapleton. Councillor Stapleton.
Oh, Wayne.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor John Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Wallace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Councillor Williams, you're not partaking.
I can't.
Thank you.
Okay. We now move to item B, to receive the results from the public consultation. We definitely did that. But to be absolutely clear that we're doing it correctly, would you like to go through the names, please, Clark?
Yes, Councillor Best, you're accepting of the results.
3,000. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bird.
Yes.
Councillor Leach.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Money.
Yes.
Councillor Moskva.
Yes.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
Yes.
Councillor Shelton.
Yes.
Councillor Sims.
Yes.
Councillor Stapleton.
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Wallace.
Yes. So.
Thank you, councillors.
C, to agree to continue working with the Rugby Club to secure and satisfy the financial, legal and operational arrangements between the two organisations in relation to the Windhill Community Facility improvements. Can we have a vote on that, please?
Councillor Best.
Can you just define what you've just said?
Would you like the Mayor to read out 4C to you?
No, I've got it.
You've got it?
Yes.
So the answer is yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Bird.
Yes.
Councillor Leach.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Money.
Yes.
Councillor Moskva.
Yes.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
Yes.
Councillor Shelton.
Yes.
Councillor Sims.
Yes.
Councillor Stapleton.
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Wallace.
Yes.
Thank you very much, councillors.
D, to note the budget and reserves for the year ending 31st of March 2021. So what's happening here is that we are including the budget, the PWLB loan repayments in the budgets and in the budget for the, I think it's in the budget for the years ahead. So can we have a vote, please?
Yep. Councillor Best.
Yes. Sorry.
You okay? Yeah. Councillor Bird.
Yes.
Councillor Leach.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Money.
Yes.
Councillor Moskva.
Yes.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
Yes.
Councillor Shelton.
Yes.
Councillor Sims.
Yes.
Councillor Stapleton.
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Wallace.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
E, to agree the loan repayment amendments to the draft 3-year reserve summary budget for the year ending 31st of March 2023. So this is about putting in that we're going to use £50,000 worth of reserves for the first repayments, so we won't actually see an impact on council tax until 2023. Okay, so are we in favour of that?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Best, was that yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bird?
Yes.
Councillor Leach?
Yes.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes.
Councillor Money?
Yes.
Councillor Mosper?
Yeah.
Councillor Purdue-Haran?
Yes.
Councillor Shelton?
Yes.
Councillor Sims?
Yes.
Councillor Stapleton?
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood?
Yes.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
Yes.
Councillor Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you.
So now we come to item F, to agree to seek the approval of the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government to apply for a Public Works Loan Board loan of £400,000 over the borrowing term of 30 years for the Win Hill Community Facilities improvements. The annual loan repayments will come to around £19,126.64. It is also intended to increase the council tax precept for the purpose of the loan repayments by 6.4%, which is the equivalent of an additional £5.30 a year based upon current figures, but we will not apply that until 1st of April 2023 due to the use of reserves. This has been subject to a precept increase consultation. These are the formal words required by the Public Work Loan Board process, and approving this means that we proceed with the arrangements for the loan. So for item F, can we take a vote now, please?
Yep. Councillor Best?
What two is disabled? Yes.
Councillor Bird?
Yes.
Councillor Leach?
Yes, with reservations for what I said about last September. It shouldn't have been coming to this, but yes, I agree.
Okay.
But I want that minuted.
When we vote, we say yes or no, or a for or against, please.
It's for with reservations.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes, but I, subject to my remarks about the disappointment felt by, I think, all councillors at the way in which this council has been manipulated by Rushcliffe Borough Council into the position of having to apply for this loan, and the resultant delay in the rugby club's project. And I'd like that minuted as well, thanks.
Councillor Money?
Yes. I'll say it again, yes.
Thank you. Apologies, Councillor Lewis, if I cut you off there. Councillor Moskva?
Yes.
Councillor Purdue-Haran?
Yes, but Mr. Mayor, do you want a speech?
No, you just say yes or no. Councillor Shelton's next, please.
Councillor Sims?
No.
No. Councillor Stapleton?
Down boy. Yes.
Apologies for my dog, who will ask to be quiet in a second. Councillor John Stockwood?
Yes.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
Yes.
Councillor Wallace?
Yes, and maybe apologies if I'm dropping out with the internet, but yes.
Yeah, Councillor Williams as well. Okay, thank you very much, councillors. That was, I thought we were going to get through unanimous there, but just not quite. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now at 8:30 and we move on to item 5 on the agenda, Win Hill pitch maintenance and drainage. So the Rugby Football Union representatives have visited Win Hill and done a pitch improvement report. Is it your wish that we suspend standing orders and let Mr. Chris Packer of the rugby club speak very briefly on the issues raised? This was intended to go to the Recreation and Amenities Committee but that committee meeting was cancelled. And so this business that there might be some short-term works that need to be addressed has been put on this extraordinary council agenda. Mr. Packer, well, is it your wish, councillors, that we suspend standing orders and allow Mr. Packer to speak?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a yes.
Everybody agrees.
Councillor Packer, yeah, sorry, Mr. Packer, can you speak now, please, to just briefly introduce your pitch improvement report?
Okay, so there's been 2 reports that have been shared with the council to date, an RFU pitch report and an initial drainage report. So the RFU report shows we need to do some immediate renovation work because of the very bad weather that we suffered last year, and also through lack of a little bit of maintenance over recent years as well. It's recommending some longer term maintenance work to make sure that the pitch is adequate when we do all the redevelopments, because we will be using the pitch far more. So the immediate works will be to verti-drain, to top sand and spread that, and that's been costed out at around about £2,500 to £3,000. Hopefully we would look to fund these particular works. The RFU report does ask for some essential requirements, which is mowing weekly, which will help. So I understand tiller and thicken the grass, which hopefully will it will improve the overall condition of the pitch itself, rather than it being cut probably every 2, 3 or 4 weeks. So and over the summer it has been pretty much cut on a much regular basis. So that's really appreciated. Thank you for that. We are aware that the council are looking to replace certain parts of equipment and purchase equipment that is more suitable for the requirements of the grass cutting, both at Win Hill and also at various play parks. And one of the things that the rugby club is prepared to consider as well is to sort of help maybe purchase a small chain harrow that can be used with any new equipment, which again would help control the weed and thatch. The longer term maintenance won't be necessary until probably 2021, when the 2021 season finishes, although it's not even planning to start at the moment. And again, the budget for these works will probably be in the region of £3,500 to £4,000. With regards to the drainage, we have originally spoken with the council regarding drainage in the overspill car parking and training area. We did put that on the back burner a little bit as our plans to sort of extend the car park sort of came to fruition. But that has made it even more essential that we look at the drainage on the main pitch itself, because there is a section near the storm drain that comes out of the estate that does get incredibly boggy whenever it does get very wet. The report has provided some remedial actions. It was very useful that when the guy came down, it was in a spell of very drought weather, so he was able to locate all the current land drains that are in place on the pitch. And he's come up with some remedial actions that will cost probably around about £8,000 exclusive of VAT. We will be probably going out to at least 1 or 2 other contractors to see if they can come up with any other alternatives as well. Initially, we've started talking with Severn Trent. That was regarding funding and helping the main development, but they responded saying they wanted to support a specific element of the project, which has a link to water. So this sort of seems to have a nice fit. So hopefully when John Perry returns from France and he's out of quarantine, we'll be able to take a few matters further with Severn Trent on the discussions. But what we would like to sort of have in the background is that, given the responsibilities under the current lease, where I understand the town council maintain the playing fields, we would want to possibly look to be the town council to help with the drainage issues should outside funding not be forthcoming. That's about it. Thanks. I hope that was succinct enough for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Packer. So the drainage scheme and the substantial renovations are for spring 2021.
That's correct. Yeah.
So there's
the
another.
sorry,
There is
sorry.
actually a Recreation and Amenities Committee in
Go on.
October when you can discuss in detail the pitch drainage proposals and the renovation programme, because it isn't the case that all councillors have had the appendices, the documents you've spoken about. So
Okay.
they would go to the next committee. Are there any particular works that you need in the immediate short-term short-term actions that you're asking the council for at the moment? I think you referred to them that you were looking to fund them yourself.
The immediate renovations we would look to fund ourselves. Sorry, the drainage issue, potentially that would need to be done this side of Christmas, because if we're putting floodlights in and car parking in, we wouldn't want to do that and then go back 3 or 4 months later and do drainage. So the drainage is something that's coming up on the short term. But as I say, we're trying to have conversations with Severn Trent and other contractors to get ideas of funding, but we need that to be out in the open on the basis that the council, it's part of their responsibility, as I understand under the lease, to maintain the pitches. But we do want to be seen that we are helping out by sort of, looking at doing the renovations and offering to sort of help purchase a chain harrow and such like.
Okay, so the immediate action is that you're asking us to mow the land weekly.
Yeah.
Which is something we can look at when we've got the equipment, and you're going to work with outside funders to, if we've also got access to grant information that we can perhaps to our membership of Arcan help you with identifying grant funders for your drainage scheme, or possibly work with Severn Trent Water, who are particularly involved in the issues that are around drainage at that site. Is that what you're requesting at the moment?
Yeah, and as long as you're open to helping us out if we need to.
I believe we've just helped you out with £400,000 loan commitment, to be honest, but I do think that does suggest we are willing to help you. We now reinstate standing orders. We now reinstate standing orders, and if councillors would like to note the points that have been raised, that we arrange that the pitch is mowed weekly, and we ask that the staff work with the rugby club to look for funding opportunities with regards to a pitch drainage scheme. The matters, all of which will be discussed in detail with all the papers available to all councillors at the next Recreation and Amenities Committee. Are we happy to agree that? Does anybody wish to move it, second it, or? Okay.
I'll move it.
To it. Does anybody wish to speak to? Okay. Councillor Leach wishes to move that. I'll second it to get the ball rolling. Does anybody else wish to speak?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Lewis.
There should have been a meeting of the Recreation and Amenities Committee last Tuesday, which unavoidably, I think, didn't take place because of irregularities. So I don't. When will the replacement for that meeting take place? Do we have to wait until October for that?
The next scheduled meeting is in October. If the chairman wishes to call an extraordinary recreation and amenities, if there's a pressing matter that we've not covered on this extraordinary council agenda, I'm sure he will consider the matters carefully. Are there any other speakers to the agenda item? We've had it moved and seconded the way forward. So can we go to a vote for that? Is it necessary, or can we all agree? Hello? Okay, we'll go to a vote then.
I agree.
Councillor Best,